Make a review. Just because you are banished doesn't mean you can stop making YouTube videos. Plaid lad. Alright. Hello. Today, I am going to be reviewing the I Am Groot short series. It was a series of shorts that went on Disney Plus like a couple weeks ago. And they're all like 5 minutes long, and they all star the character Groot. They're the first of the animated shows that are going to be going on Disney Plus. Unlike the other live-action shows, these shows are going to be 100% animated, no live-action at all. And a majority of them are going to have a continuity that isn't like with the MCU. Now, of course, with the multiverse thing, there's always the possibility that it's canon, just in another universe. But as of yet, it's not going to have any sort of shows that are actually part of, like, the actual universe. Now, I Am Groot is a very nice, funny show. It's, if you're looking for some dumb fun that doesn't really have any meaning to it, other than, hey, we just wanted to make a couple fun shorts, this show is great for that. Remember that this is a kids show, pretty much. They are making this for like young kids. Like, this is not rated TV 14, this is rated TV like Y7. So it's made for 7-year-olds. But nonetheless, it was a very fun and enjoyable show. I had a great time watching it. And other than the fact it has Groot and it features some locations that are similar, it has really no connection to anything at all. It has no impact. Though I do have to say that there is some lore implications. There's some things in there, some little details that kind of give you more information about Groot and some of his like attributes and how like roots work. Since Groot isn't the only Groot, there was at some point a world of Groots, or he came from a planet, some sort of planet that is kind of mystic or mysterious. For the non-spoiler review, since it's a short show, this was a pretty short section. I would say this is a great show. Highly, I recommend it. It might not be the type of show for you, due to it just being like a bunch of dumb scenarios, you know? They don't really have much of a plot. And there's going to be a season 2 of sorts coming out sometime. I'm not really sure when. It would have to be sometime before Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that's when all the characters from that franchise are kind of retiring. Alright, so that was the spoiler-free review that I have been putting in. So now I can go into some depth. And the reason why I have this notepad is just because so I can remember the plot of the shorts, so that way I don't forget anything. Because in the previous review for Ms. Marvel, I had forgotten some of which episodes were where, and so I don't want to make that mistake again. So I wrote down all of the episodes' plots. So, the one thing that I do have to say is I think that they should have organized them in like a show slot instead of separating them amongst different shorts like they do for most of their other shorts, because although they don't really have a connection, it just would be easier to just find them listed in a row, and instead of just having to figure out which one is the first episode and which one is the last episode, because it does show some semblance, some kind of like arc. It's not really a overarching story. It's more like this happens earlier than this, you know? And just for the sake of finding how many episodes this thing has and figuring out how to watch it, I think it would have been best if they just kind of put it out as a show and acted as if it was just 5-minute episodes. And Disney has done this before for some of their other shorts. There was a series that they did called like Popcorn Shorts, where it was basically a bunch of random Pixar shorts. They had some spare time, so they made a bunch of Pixar shorts. For those ones, they actually put it in a TV show format instead of putting them out as all separate films. They compiled them into a nice list, and that was great. It made them easy to find, and you could quickly watch it in an afternoon. You didn't have to have too much effort. Alright, let's get to the first episode. It starts with episode 1. I did have to figure out what episodes were first from a Wikipedia list. But episode 1 is Groot's first step. Basically, the plot of that is as Groot's life begins from the end of Guardians Volume 1. You see that he's in that pot, and he's basically a plant. Well, eventually he grows to the point where the pot breaks, and he gets replaced by a new plant, by some sort of robot. And so, the majority of the show of this episode is about him fighting with the inanimate plant, and the hilarity ensues. It's pretty funny. It has some nice slapstick moments, and it has it's a smart type of slapstick where it's a problem solution type thing where he does something. It doesn't go the right way, so then he tries to find a solution for his problem. And then he keeps on figuring things out. Like, in the beginning, he learns that he can actually move his arms, because he tries to move in the pot, and so he moves his arms to try and get to where he needs to go. And that's a pretty, smart thing, and it shows a good way of him figuring it out. It's not just it comes naturally. It's like he actually has to learn it. And I think that was a good touch in this episode. And then eventually the fight leads to him breaking the pot that he's in, and then he learns to walk, and he befriends the inanimate plant and realizes that it is just the robot taking care of the plant that is bad and whatnot. And then they hang out together, even though the tree is not living, it's not an actual person. It's just a tree. But it's a fun episode. I enjoyed it a lot. It really kind of showed that it wasn't just that even though it's like a dumb concept, they put some actual thought into it, into making it a good, fun thing rather than just like throwing a bunch of random jokes together. And I respect that, because it means that they're actually trying with the show. And they do succeed. The second episode, it's called The Little Guy, and the basic plot of the show, of that episode, is he builds some sort of structure out of some sticks. It gets destroyed by some birds, and then he goes into a fit of rage. That was hilarious, and he like gets angry, and then it goes like 37 minutes later, and then he's still going at it. I thought that was a funny joke. It got a laugh out of me. And then after he gets exhausted by his fit of rage, he falls over due to exhaustion. Then he looks over, and he looks under a rock and sees a tiny civilization of a bunch of these little people, and they look to be in like an earlier stage of development. And he begins to terrorize these people, kind of like how the big birds were terrorizing him. He turns and terrorizes this community. Now, as small civilizations go, that also means that they evolve quicker. So you see that as things go on, the civilization is evolving from like early development to cavemen to like guns to like futuristic technology in a matter of seconds, and then they eventually start to go like one up the Groot. They're able to defend their own. It's kind of funny how they evolve super quickly, and then Groot gets scared. In his scaredness, he spits out a leaf, and it starts to sway down, and then the creatures like eat the leaf, because that would be like a meal for all of them. And so then Groot gets the idea to get some leaves from a tree nearby. And then he runs over, gets the leaves, he runs back, and then he accidentally steps on the tiny civilization because it was a shorter distance than he imagined, and boom, the entire civilization is crushed. Fortunately, they don't die, because in a post-credit scene, the only one in the show, 6 of them pop out, and they seem to have some sort of subtle marking, so maybe that means that they're forming an Avengers group. This was a really fun one. It was also one that you could tell had a lot of thought going through, specifically the design of the civilization and all the little details in it. It made it a fun episode, and as the first episode, it wasn't just some dumb thing they threw together. They just were having fun, and they let their imaginations go to wherever they wanted, and they produced a great episode. I enjoyed it. It's silly, and yeah. And the part that I like about these first 2 episodes is the fact that the main thing of the episode, it doesn't start out with the main thing. The character has to naturally find the main point of the episode. Like in the first one, there's nothing in the title that tells you that he was going to be fighting a tree for a big portion of the episode. But it is fighting the tree that causes him to take his first steps, and in a creative, indirect way. In The Little Guy, he builds a treehouse in the beginning. There's nothing in the title to say that, or in the main story of the episode, that he builds a treehouse. It has nothing to do with the actual plot of the episode, but yet it leads into him finding the small civilization and then mess with them. I find that to be kind of clever, and it kind of reminds me of like an old Simpsons episode, because they used to not start off with the actual plot of the episode. They would start off with some sort of crazy event Like in the trampoline episode, the trampoline is not the main point of the episode. There's an entirely different plot that happens after the trampoline. And I kind of like it when shows do that, especially when this is a 5-minute short, and they probably wouldn't have had, and they would have had to figure out how to fit it in while also leaving enough space for the main event. And I thought that it did it very well. The third episode is called Groot's Pursuit. Now, in my opinion, this was the weakest episode of the bunch, because it's the one that I felt didn't really have the clearest idea of what it was doing. It was kind of a plain plot. You know how the other ones had some sort of non sequitur at the beginning? This one, it kind of just is what it is. You know, he hears a noise, he spends like a big portion of the episode just looking for the guy, and some funny things ensue. There's like one funny thing, and most of the other jokes in it are kind of like cliche or like obvious jokes, like he pulls the Russian doll and it's like it keeps getting smaller and he gets like angry at that. That's like a joke that's appeared a lot in many things. He checks all of these funny places. None of them particularly have a punchline other than, ha, that's a funny place to check. The funniest thing to happen in this portion of the episode is he reads a book at one point, and the book is titled The Universe's Greatest Dumps, and on it has a picture of Thanos, presumably meaning that Thanos has one of the universe's greatest dumps. That was a funny joke, especially since the book isn't actually written in English. It's written in like Orbesh, so you'd have to be one of those nerds to translate it in order to figure it out. And so I thought that was a funny joke. It had nothing to do with the episode, but hey, that was the funniest part of the episode. Anywho, back to the plot. Eventually he finds this guy and this person, and it seems to be this liquid-like creature that kind of mimics other things. And it mimics Groot, and it says, I am Groot. Groot gets angry, and then they have a dance-off. Eventually, Groot starts to have fun, but then he realizes that the creature is not what it appears to be. It's really this big, annoying monster guy, and he gets annoyed at how the monster guy is criticizing his dance moves, so that means Groot then leads it to the air duct, in which it closes the air duct and launches the guy out. That was also a funny moment. But the part that I don't really understand is why the dance battle even happens in the first place. Because it would have made sense if the blob creature started the dance battle, since he is revealed to be like a dance snob halfway through the dance sequence. But it's Groot that starts the dance battle, and I just don't understand why he would do that. If Groot has those, like, you've probably seen Groot and Baby Groot in the MCU. His first instinct is to like punch things. That's how he's been characterized throughout the whole like continuity. He's like a punch first type of character. He like a character that resorts to like violence and such. So for him to resort to a dance battle is completely random and it's like doesn't make any sense. I think if they just like thought about it a little bit more, they could have made the dance sequence like more natural, because like, yeah, it's a dumb concept and it's supposed to be dumb, but like the whole point is that they do something dumb, but they like dive deep into it to the point where it becomes good again. That's what happened in the first two episodes, where they have a concept that could have easily just been, let's throw this thing together, but they put some time and effort and thought into it, and they created something that was pretty cool. In this one, it's just kind of lazy. It's just a random dance scene. Why is that even there? So I feel that they could have put like a little bit more effort into making the dance thing like make sense, you know? having the, like, and it would have been just one thing to tweak, and it would have, like, changed the whole context. And that's pretty much what ruins the episode for me. It's the context. Why are they dancing? And that kind of ruins the flow of the joke, because you're like, why is he dancing all of a sudden? He was just going after this thing in the goal of, like, beating up the thing and, like, defending the ship. Why would he all of a sudden, like, have a dance thing? But that's besides the point. It was the weakest episode. Had some funny moments, but, like, overall it was kind of boring in general. The fourth episode is Groot Takes a Bath. That one, it goes back to the good episode. It's a simple concept. He finds some sort of hot tub-like thing. He has creative ways of turning it into an actual hot tub, and he, like, is excited. And then he discovers afterwards, before that, it sets up this bird creature towards the beginning. It's really like a bird-squirrel hybrid from some sort of alien creature along that lines. And basically, it kind of sets up that character in the beginning. And then, so, back to the hot tub scenario. After a while being in the hot tub, he grows, like, these leaves on him. And so, he tries to, like, and then at first he's, like, scared, but then he tries to, like, create patterns with it. And he creates all these different characters with it, and he has fun doing, like, charade type stuff. And it's a fun episode. It basically consists of him making different funny gags with the leaves, and it's a fun concept because it's simple and they have some fun with it, and you can tell that the writers of the show were having fun with it, and that makes it good to watch. And so then eventually the bird squirrel character gets angry and then takes away his, like, pool of water, because what happens is after he cuts it, then leaves fall off, then he has to run back and do it again. And he keeps trying to find something that stays, but nothing seems to work because every time he cuts it, it just falls off, all of the leaves. So now when he goes back to it when it's dry, he gets angry. Now the bird squirrel thing gets laughs at him, and then Groot takes revenge on the bird and shaves off all of its fur and then uses it as, like, a hat. It was a funny episode. It had that sweet, like, revenge that Groot's known for. And it was just a fun episode. There's nothing really more to say about it. And this is where some of the lore kicks in. Some people, when watching the show, might be like, why would he know what a dolphin is or a horse or whatever? Because has he even been to Earth at this point? Peter Quill has been away from Earth for, like, years, and he hasn't even returned until, like, Infinity War, and at that point he's like teenage Groot, so how in the world would he know what those things are? And that kind of establishes some things that were in Groot's, like, background in the comics, and the fact that Groot is a kind of all-knowing creature. And despite its appearance and the way it acts, it is actually a very intelligent and all-knowing type creature. And it is, like, it probably knows a lot of things that no one else knows. And it probably doesn't even know why it knows. And that's kind of one of the quirks of the character in the comics. And so, he knows this stuff because at some point, a previous Groot knew it, and so through the remnants of memory, he somehow knows these things, and that's one of the interesting, like, things about Groot. This gets expressed again in the 5th episode, Magnum Opus. This one is the most involved with, like, the other characters. What happens is he goes around the ship and he gets all of these materials to make this drawing. He goes, and it's a funny scene. I would have to say this one You could kind of tell they put the most budget in terms of animation on it, and it is my most favorite episode because it's the one that all the jokes land a lot cleaner than in the other episodes, because even though they were good, some of the jokes were like halfway, But this one, I feel like, was the one where the writers had the most spirit when writing the episode. It was the fullest. It was the one that felt like it could have been a complete separate episode, like a full-length episode. It was this one and the first episode that kind of felt like they could have been a whole like 10-minute episode or such, and they had like a complete story arc. So this one, in hilarious fashion, he has some very interesting things that help him with the painting. He gets some fur from Rocket. He snips it off. He uses some of Drax's soap. He gets some other supplies. He like uses Quill's like jetpack boot things to like burn something on it. He he finds some sort of panel that has glitter on it, so what he does is he blows it up so that way the glitter goes in the air, and he catches the glitter on his paper, in which that's when he blows up part of the ship. Rocket like runs in because he's like, "Why is the ship blown up? Groot, where are you?" And that's when the drawing is complete. He sees the drawing, and this is the part that's kind of important. It is a drawing of normal Groot from the first movie, where he turns into that ball and sacrifices his life to save the Guardians. And the reason why this is important is because, according to what's been previous, this Groot should be a completely different character. There should have been no way that this Groot would remember what happened, because it's not the same Groot. So how would it know about this thing? Well, that kind of goes into Groot's backstory in a subtle way, in the sense that he kind of remembers some things but not others. It's kind of that mysterious quality of Groot that he also has in the comics in terms of like where the knowledge comes from. And it kind of gives evidence that in some means knowledge in Groot gets passed down through generations. Things that their ancestors remembered, they can somehow remember in some way or another. And that is, and the other pieces of evidence were in the bath episode where he like makes like a dolphin, and so that means that at some point a version of Groot had seen a dolphin, and through random means the new baby Groot somehow remembers it. He probably doesn't even know what he drew when he drew it, because that's kind of the chaotic nature of Groot. That's kind of the point of Groot's mind. He's kind of chaotically doing things. He doesn't really have reason. And that's because there's so much massed knowledge on it that it kind of gets mixed and jumbled up to the point where stuff he does is kind of ridiculous, and at some points things happen that don't even make sense. And that might have been an explanation for the dance sequence. Who knows? But, that's kind of how, like, Groot seems to work. And as with lots of things in the comics, they leave it obscure because, like, it's a mystery, and lots of times things are just left best as a mystery instead of explaining it. I guess they figured that out for Groot, and they decided to make the character more mysterious, which I think is a good thing. So yeah, that episode, aptly named Magnum Opus, is the best episode out of them all, in my opinion. And so, yeah, those are all the episodes, and those are my opinions on those episodes. Thanks for watching this episode, and that is my review of Groot. I recommend watching it. if you haven't already, if you for some reason suck after the spoil section. But anyways, that is my review of Groot. Plaid Lad, I hope you're happy with this review. This should get you some watch hours on the Plaid Lad YouTube channel. So, yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to get out of this place soon, because, like, how was I supposed to know, you know? But, yeah. Thanks for watching this review, and thanks for watching the Plaid Lad. Yeah, see ya.